one of the problems that was basically, I consider myself just an old surgeon and an old schoolie. And I've been, messing with, I really enjoy working with medical students and residents. And I'm not sure exactly why, because nowadays, man, they are truly like a bunch of teenagers. And I'm not, there was a time when I really wasn't very fond of teenagers. I had 4 in 1 year. So 1 year I had 4 in the house. And during that time, I decided anybody that had more than 2 at any given time, there would be a law that you kill a certain percentage. It'd be like a buck tag of materializer. You can't figure out which buck to kill, and just sit around, and before long the season's over, you haven't done anything. They all need killing. But we managed to get through it, and I've still got 4 of them. Fortunately, it's not a teenager. And the residents and the students, they're pretty good. I don't imagine most of you get exposed to many of them anyway, like I do. And you can pick up a lot of stuff. I learned a lot of stuff I don't like. Now, I am proud to tell you that I have never sent a text message or an email in my life, nor do I intend to start. I'm going to try to get you in the eye, but if I can't, I will call you, and if I can't do that, I'll write you a nice letter, but I'm not sending a damn text message. Medical report using text. You know what 2, numeral 2/2 means secondary to in their language. I ran across, I couldn't buzz it, I ran across that in a discharge summary last Friday. And I can't wait. And the little lady that did that is kind of arrogant. I can't wait to get her alone. It's in my pocket. But it's in my pocket. And well, you learn some magical things from them. One time I was standing there with this guy. We had our gown, sterile gown and the gloves on, waiting for the nurse to tie up the back of our gown. He looked at me and said, "Dr. Jim, I want to apologize to you for all the mistakes I'm getting ready to make." I'll offer you the same apology. I love being a doctor. I really consider myself fortunate. It's such a privilege to have the opportunity to care for somebody that has something that you might be able to help. And I try to preach this to these young ones. I'm never sure what you teach. But I felt it's a sacred opportunity to assume the well-being of another person. One illustration, one comment I always make is, who else can ask a woman to take off all her clothes? Who else can legally invade another human body? I was a little late getting here tonight because operator was late. I take this stuff, it's serious stuff, but as far as trauma is concerned, I've noticed that as you get older, you get a little tired. And I think my battery is very similar to the battery in the cell phone. It runs down quicker and charges slower. That's the thunder out of me that I have to sleep on it. I told one person one time something about me getting tired. He said, "Yeah, I read the other day that you get old when you see a good-looking woman, your pacemaker goes off and your garage door goes up." You have an affair and they want to know who's catering. But, one of the real advantages of having a chance to live several decades is that, you know, our lives are so short, we can't appreciate a lot of the normal change and cycles of the world, just like the weather. Now, those of you that weren't alive, old enough to know what was going on in the 1950s, we had exactly the same weather pattern we've got right now. Big high over here, big drought, the book's written about that drought, and the hurricanes got pushed to the East Coast because of this high. You know, a lot of people never realize that. Well, there's a whole lot of things that we miss because of the brevity of our time on this earth. But you do get a chance to get a little glimpse of history, and one thing that I've been very abundantly aware of, more so now than ever, you know, you got to accumulate on you. All of a sudden, you know, there's a lot of things happen. Does anybody in here not know what a crystal set is? Everybody knows what a crystal set is? Radio. No, I didn't say. I said not know. Not know. I can tell by your hair that you know. Crystal set was a little simple thing with a galena crystal on it, and you have a cat square, a cat hair whisper thing. That little coil that you ran around on that thing, and you could pick up radio. Oh, it was pretty crude, but now look what it is. You know, and all with all the digital technology. And who would imagine any of this stuff? Back, you know, when he was in North Africa, nobody thought about a jet aircraft and that sort of thing. Well, change is inevitable, and it's relentless, and it's going to keep going. Some of that is good, and some of it stinks. I'm not here to impress you at all, but I'm pretty serious about the moral issues that exist in the country. Greed, you know, dishonesty. And we can put rampant with it, and that'll keep the core of the soul out as that goes on. Well, I can't talk about all of the ways things have changed, but if you'll allow me, I'll narrow it way down. And let me tell you about my personal experience with medicine since I was born. I mean, that'll just illustrate some of the things that have changed, and I'll probably know more about that than anything else. I was born in this little old building, I guess it was called a hospital, in Texas, on a cold November night. And so was another little fellow. Now, as the story goes, they took that little fella to the lady that I call a mother. So I presume I went otherwise, and the mother there probably objected vigorously, and we got switched out. The mother named me David. She told Dr. Clark there. But my dad took me to town, and they started saying, "Oh, you have a junior." So he started calling me James. And when I went to get my driver's license at age 16, I found out I wasn't James, I was David. That's what the name said. So I'm not sure exactly who the hell I am or where I came from. And in those days, thank goodness the world's gotten a little bit beyond that, and we're using a whole lot more sense about dealing with this issue of the colon. But there was this ubiquitous fixation on the colon back when I was a kid, a long time ago. And one thing that you learned fairly quickly is you didn't want to complain too much about illness because you knew you were going to get an enema. I spent a good part of my young life with my little penny sticking up in the air. You know, said, "Now, hold it, James. Just hold on it, James. Do a little more." You know? And they had all these other crazy things to try to be sure everybody was functioning quite well. Now, my first true medical memory was in Dr. Clark's office. And I can, honestly, I'm a frustrated artist, so I think in pictures anyway, but I can still see that old instrument cabinet, you know, glass, white, porcelainized steel instruments laying in it. I was in his office on a table. And they were going to take out my Thompson. And they were going to put me to sleep with chloroform, which is toxic to the liver. And the reason they were going to take my tonsils out is because I had them. That's the only reason that everybody lost their tonsils in those days for that reason. And then, a little after that, he apparently thought I had appendicitis. And, you know, I never really knew him. But in the first place, the incision he made is called a McBurney incision, which is this way. We never do that. Now, and he either had Parkinsonism or he was drunk, so that's I would be ashamed of it if I'm When he took it out, put it in a jar of formalin, and gave it to Mother. So they didn't submit it. They had a pathologist there anyway, but it's perfectly normal appendix, because she kept it. Well, I guess my sister threw it away when she mother died. It's a real good person, real good bait. Although I doubt at age 7, I had pneumonia. They didn't want me. They didn't I was But with pneumococcal pneumonia, there is, in those days, there was a crisis with pneumonia. You ask any young faculty member about the crisis of pneumonia, they don't know what you're talking about. This was before antibiotics. And so, what that meant was that somewhere between the 6th and 10th day, your immune system either kicked in or you died. Well, now, and also at that point, even up until the time I was young staff, we still gave digitalis leaf, which is just ground up digitalis, which grows around everywhere around here, as a way to deal with congestive heart failure. And the great thing about dig leaf is you can't kill anybody with it. Because when you get too much, they'll start seeing yellow and vomiting. Well, this old guy did. Didn't make sense, but he was getting my heart ready for the crisis, and he was giving me elixir digitalis, and I was vomiting. So Mother, pretty smart, he wasn't pretty woman. And she noticed she associated that medicine with me vomiting, so she was throwing it out to make him happy, and I wasn't getting that. And then when she was feeding me, it's the first lick I had toward arteriosclerosis, she was feeding me the juices off of boiled meat. That was only nothing to say for his fatty acid. But anyway, that didn't kill me. And there weren't that many medicines available then anyway, you know, aspirin, Lambdrol, and a few other things. And there was also rock candy and honey, lemon. But most of all, it was burning. That's where I learned that was a positive aspect of that. You're not going to, you know, it took a hunk out of you. But anyway, I got through that thing. And then we moved to Hillsboro from Ennis, which is north of Waco, about 30 miles. You know where that is. And there were 2 wonderful old GPs there that I think I'm trying to be like. I mean, I don't, you know, if I had an excuse to make a house call, I'd be glad to do it. You know, those guys, they didn't have much we could do. And they would come to the house and make a house call. Stethoscopes were cold then, just like they are now. And there was something about it when they came in that just their presence made a difference. I try to teach students and residents. I'll do it anyway, but I mean, just to make the point of that, you know, one thing I try to tell them is sit down by the patient. Don't look down their nose. Look and pay attention. Touch them. And all those things are healing. And if, you know, there's so much more. I got a great article I just passed out to the students I'm working with right now. And this guy, he's in California, did it, but he was talking about 2 ways to treat patients. You know, like we're talking right now, or the eye patient, because so much of what goes on now is the patient is competing with the computer. And, you know, they can't function without an eyeball, something like that. But anyway, the way I just adored those guys. I can tell you a funny story about OGC. This guy, this is long, this is probably before I was born, but this old guy living out in the country somehow got word to the doctor that his wife was about to deliver a baby. And would he please come out? And so he got in his old Model A Ford and took off. And this guy, Mr. Johnson, didn't have electricity. So he was on the porch with a lantern, you know, just trying to show him where to turn in. And he pulled in, got his little black bag out, went to the back room where she was, had a coal oil lantern sitting there, a lamp. And he got to the course, they had the hot water, all that stuff, and he was examining it. He said, bring that lantern over, I need a little more light. And then all of a sudden he heard a little cry, and he said, well, Mr. Johnson, you've got a lovely little girl. Well, that just tickled him to death. You know, he was walking around just kind of happy about all this. And he said, hey, Mr. Johnson, bring that lantern back over here. And then he heard another big cry. He said, well, I've got good news for you. Your little daughter now has a little brother. Well, that's really thrilled him, you know. He was walking around. And I got back over the corner, and I guess what he's thinking. And all of a sudden, the doctor said, would you please come back over here with that lantern? He said, I ain't going to do it. It's those lights that's attracted. We had all kinds of diseases we were scared to death of. Meningitis, vasculitis, and polio. And we didn't know whether it was caused. Nobody knew what caused it. We were, you know, always scared to death of it. Had some interesting derivatives too. Don't even believe me. I've used a lot of old stuff. One example of it. When I was at Parkland in training, I learned that taking care of like sores. And what we did is put benzoin, which is a sticky stuff, and granulated sugar together, and put it on there, and it cleaned them up. Well, I've since done a lot more of the big stuff, and even bad smelling wounds. We can clean a wound up in no time with it. The reason it works, the Egyptians were using honey 4,000 years ago. And I buy my own sugar and just go on that food thinking hospital with, you know, and I also, and one time when I was cooking, I realized that brown sugar is stickier than the other stuff I was using. And you use maggots sometimes, there's a certain time that clean wounds up. A lot of these old techniques work just fine. You can't get the young ones to use it, but they know that it works. It's funny, I don't know where they're hung up, but they won't use it. But anyway, I can tell you, no exact questions, but my father believed that my thigh was cured anything. They touched the swab of the thigh on my body has been touched. Then there was this old black tar stuff called Pixie off. And that stuff works. I mean, and people still use it. It just, it smells like the devil, but it's done all right. And then when I was a kid, you all remember Lieutenant Governor Bullock? Yeah. I grew up in Bobby, and when I moved to Hillsborough in the 3rd grade, and he's the only guy I can remember in the 3rd grade. He was always so big guy. He on his funny, I don't know why I was sticking to my brain, but he on his funny single-piece lucky suit that was blue with white piping on it. Anyway, that reminds me of our draw, because he always had a cold, and you could see the leaded byproduct of silver. And it'd be running down out of their nose, you know. So you could tell who was sick, so it was fine on their face. And I had some kind of asthma when I was 8, 9, something like that. They gave me goat's milk and it went away. I don't know if it made a difference or not. But I've heard other people tell me goat's milk is good stuff. They had used, in those days, without antibiotics, they used heavy metals for all kinds of things. If you took an x-ray of somebody and they had, looked like they still barium on their rear end, you knew they had syphilis because they were shooting them in the front of the business. And no lie. And they tried to use gold salt to treat tuberculosis. It didn't help the TB any, but they found that people with rheumatoid arthritis got better, and that's still used somehow. And I'm told, I'm not a rheumatologist, it's because of one. And, you know, the most blamed poor critter in the world is spiders. Every time somebody gets an abscess, they want to blame it on the spider bite. Well, it ain't. That's not a spider. It's a staphylococcal abscess is what it is, but I had one on my ankle and one on my neck, so they decided, and it was just my first experience with any kind of intravenous therapy. Dr. Smith was giving me IV arsenic, you know, and I could, I'd change it. How quick it gets up there. If you think I'm odd, what I've told you so far would probably verify why I might be a little funny. As far as any kind of trauma system, there was none. Now, you know, you see this happen all the time when guys get knocked out playing football and all that. In the last game of my high school experience playing football, we were playing walk the hat. And I tackled this shot back to the all state back. And my best friend came up from safety and polished it off. Well, he polished me off. He polished me over into the kingdom. And I guarantee you they did come out, put me on the backboard, stabilize my neck, and carry me to the hospital to do a CAT scan. Well, somehow I woke up, played the second half, but I kept complaining about my neck being sore, so my dad took me to a chiropractor, and he took some x-rays, and I hit one of these vertebrae, and if you put your hand up here on your chest, you can touch the hand of your chin, I can't. Luckily, I've never had any other, I can't do that trick. It's okay, and then the first time I ever had any antibiotics was when I was in the 2nd Armor Division. We were living out in the snow, and I had to go back to the base to do something. I have no idea what, and there was an officers club there, and I took a bath. You know, that's a pretty rare deal. Anyway, I just soaked a while and went back out in the snow, and for the next, within 3 days I had pneumonia again. And that's when I got my first dose of penicillin. And it was also emphasized one boy that shouldn't bathe too often. Now, I always wanted to be a doctor, and I got into medical school in 1956, and I thought I was dying to go to heaven. I never enjoyed just lots of kids complain about it. I loved every day of it. It just But you know, when you think about our antibiotics, then were penicillin, streptomycin, tetracycline, PAS, which is an INH. The last two are TB medications. But that's all there were. They worked, you know. The X-rays that you read were not digital like they are now. We was in the emergency room. They push it through this thing, we'd read them wet, and then whatever hypo is, or an X-ray finally developed, it's not good for your lungs. I developed bronchitis every time I went. The anesthesia we had was either ether or cyclopropane, both of which were explosive. I never saw anybody blown up. When in Afghanistan, I learned from Dr. Shaw, my godfather, how to use a bowhead, an electrocautery thing, with ether. You didn't blow anybody up there either. You know, and a suture was either wire, silk, cotton, or gut. You know, and, you know, as students, by the time you got to be a third-year student, you were functioning ahead of what our interns are. We didn't have respiratory therapists, people draw blood. You know, we just did it all, and we did. I loved doing this stuff. Well, then I got up, and they taught me in the stand. I got to finish training in Parkland, and they taught me to stay on faculty. And then they thought I was going to get some research experience, and I went to Columbia, New York, and got strung out on a thing, and where the people I was working with were closely associated with a school of chemical engineering at Columbia College. And it's really funny, they're going to develop a mathematical model of amino acid metabolism. You know, when they told me about a model, I thought they were like airplanes. I didn't know what the hell they were talking about a model. And I didn't learn to write Fortran. I couldn't write. I don't know what everyone come in and left. I could do it. But you know, it's just things keep going. And then I had this chance to go to Afghanistan with Dr. Shaw that I mentioned a moment ago. I've been so lucky to have so many great mentors, and he's one of them. He's just bigger than life. I wish everybody could have known him. He walked in the room, didn't know somebody was here. In fact, I'd known him all through medical school and residency. And when I was with him in my senior year, as a senior resident, I realized he wasn't 12 feet tall. I thought he was. I actually taller he was, but that's the way kind of man he was, my friend. And he'd been to Afghanistan, got hepatitis, came back, and told me a lot about it, and told me to get more experience in orthopedic surgery, which luckily I did. And then we were in Jalalabad for 2 years. And nobody could say Jalalabad until after 9/11. And then I came here in '72, and I began to kind of get awakened. Now, Parkland is big-time trauma. It always has been big-time trauma. But I thought, when I got here, I had never seen an EMT, much less a paramedic. So we started the first school over there at the UT. This is 1952. I'd never seen the modular ambulance that we have now. Parkland, the way they got there is either by a private car or taxi. All the taxis have a big, clear, plastic rear seat, you know, to deal with the blood. Or a hearse. The guys driving the hearses knew exactly what to do with the dead one. They had no idea what to do with the life. And, you know, here we are. And that's when, and all of us that would do trauma, we were all trained as true general surgeons, but started doing trauma. Nobody knew anything about blunt trauma, car wrecks, falls, and that sort of thing. We had to learn all that. And it's incredible progress is made in that regard for a lot of reasons. You know, it's like CT scans. It's really fun watching the radiologists learn to use those things. They, you know, because hell, they're just a fancy machine, you know. And like an MRI, when they first started using MRIs, they said these are only good for the neurological examination. Well, they get moving pictures of the darn thing. Now, you know, it's incredible how this stuff works. When they hit the trauma bay now, you can get almost instant chest X-ray and pelvis, which rules in or out a whole lot of stuff. I mean, just bam, bam, and there it is on the wall. You know, I mean, the Lord only knows where to go. As you know, as I said in the beginning, this change stuff is inevitable. Some of it is pretty good. It makes a lot of difference in the way a lot of issues are concerned, even with health in particular. But there's a lot of things that ain't too red hot either. And we as individuals, as we live, have to try to assimilate what's worthwhile, but we got to have the nerve, you know, to say, I ain't gonna do that. And this is where where the rubber's really gonna meet the road. And I wish everybody'd been a Boy Scout or something that knew that oath and those laws, because if we lived that way, we'd, as a whole, we'd be a whole lot better off. Yeah, there's one thing I preach constantly: there is nothing like one's personal integrity. If you don't have integrity, you don't have anything. And it, you know, be honest and be humble. You're going to be all right if you do all those things. May not be, you know, whatever, but you're going to be all right. And you can sleep good, you know, and you probably live a long time. And it is so important to try to inspire that way, and to try to, in my case, I try to lead folks to go down that path. Now, like I told you in the beginning, I wasn't going to say anything brilliant, but I want to leave you with a few little suggestions that'll maybe make the day a little better, and maybe the world in which you live a little better. One thing is try to do something nice for at least one person every day. There's nothing like giving of yourself. And then try to read, hopefully an hour, about something that doesn't pertain to what you do during the day. Now, don't read beauty magazines or these health fitness things that will make you feel ugly. You know, and I'm always trying to get people not to worry. If you can't do something about it, blow it off. All you do is just get bogged down. You know, and people love to worry, and I don't know, but as long as it's all straight in here, you don't have anything to worry about. Now, one thing that I think it's applies to everybody, sure does in doing the stuff I do, but I try to just don't get excited. When you get excited, you're going to make a mistake. You can't think straight. And some people got sick trying to get me excited because I don't do as much excitement. You know, there's some things piss me off. But now, if you haven't started stretching, it ain't too late. And another line on the same line is, be kind to your knees and your back. You'll miss them when they're gone. Be sure to get plenty of calcium. And don't ever hesitate to ask for help or direction, you know. It might save you some time and show you that the bottom you might have a touch of humility. You don't know what's going on. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. I'm always like to have all the help I can get. Now, always remember those kind words. Please, thank you, and may I. Now, this is one of my many